And they do not contradict, they do not conflict, they complement. It's not a God of the gaps type of God, like I don't know what that is, God is it? No, it's the explanation of everything. It really gives you the chance to think, in another direction. If this can be the real world, then there is like hope, basically. And create all those really personal, immaterial realities. Because, everybody is interested in why am I here? I mean, those are the questions of a child. Hey there, this is Micha from Wide Room, and welcome to another video. This one is about the lyrics of the song Trust. It's going to be a fun video. We're going to listen to the song, the lyric video to be precise, and we're going to take a look at the lyrics, so I just can tell you what I meant with them, because I feel like it's important to talk about stuff like that. It's about a lot of existential questions, and therefore I think it's very easy to get sometimes misunderstood, and therefore I just want to make a little opener what I think in general about people and why, and I think I have many reasons why I can believe, and I would claim to know that this is the case actually. In my view, every human being is made in the image of God, and therefore of infinite value. So no matter who you are, no matter what you have done, no matter where you are, I think you have infinite value, and I think this is actually a plausible explanation of reality. And if you bear with me here, we're going to explore that later on, why I think that this is the case. I think those are great lyrics to go into that direction. And, I think it's important for everybody, because it seems like, those topics are kind of, at least in my, everyday life, people don't tend to talk about stuff like that. Basically the big questions. And since a big part of my writing are the big questions. I think it's just a really important thing, because it changes basically, everything. It changes the foundation you're building your life on. To me, those are the most important questions actually, and they're very, very fun to talk about and to think about. If you never have really, thought about why is there a universe at all? Why is there something rather than nothing? Is the correct term. So I think it's very fun to think about those things, and you don't need to be a scholar or any very educated person. So I'm not myself, but you can still think about those things, and it's very important. So everybody can. And I just want to invite you to do it. And I just took some notes. Yeah. What I want to say also is, I really like to challenge my worldview myself. I really like to, take, different views and listen to different people and see what they think. It's very important and it's very fun. And so let's go and listen to the song. Gotta play it here. Let's listen to the song and watch the lyric video as well. Stop here. We're going, I think, to listen to the song then, like from verse to chorus, and then some later point until the end. If we just take a look at the lyrics here, it has like an intro speech, Yeah, so let's dive right in. We try to be conscious about everything, but in fact, we're cognizant most of the time. We think of our visual world as real, but our subconscious awareness reveals the opportunity of the mental world as the essence of life. The essence always remains preserved, nothing ever ceases to exist really. That's basically the intro lyric, and then the will you say a word is like the transition. Yeah, it kicks it off, and it goes into deep waters right at the beginning. So welcome to the battle. We try to be conscious, but basically, just to summarize it, there are different kinds of explanations for our whole experience of reality. On one side, you have nature, and you have the laws of nature, and you have all the things that you can observe with your eyes and your ears. And on the other hand, there is, stuff like your consciousness, and there is like, morality, and there are all those immaterial things that are also there, and they like complement the picture of your experience of you being human, of your being alive, basically. And the point he wants to make is like, there are different kinds of explanation to have the whole picture of everything. And also the word opportunity I chose, it is in this sense an opportunity that if the mental world is like the spiritual world, what I wanted to say here is like the even more real world than the material world, then basically there is no such thing as death, because your body dies, but what happens then to your spirit? It's like an opportunity. If this can be the real world, then there is like hope, basically, and a purpose, basically, because this is what really happens on a materialistic or naturalistic worldview. Life becomes really absurd, and we're going more into detail later on, but I just wanted to throw that in there. So that's a basic direction. I really like the explanation that John Lennox makes. He's a mathematician of Oxford University, I believe, and a philosopher of science. And because of the different explanations for reality, he makes a very good one, I think. It's the one you get really intuitively, and it's a very powerful one, He asks, and he's a scientist, basically, and he's an older man, so has a lot of life experience, and challenges his faith a lot. So I really like that about him. Also does debates and stuff like that. It's really interesting. I think I'll link something in the description. I think he's really, really brilliant. It really gives you the chance to think, in another direction, and gives you actually the opportunity to choose between, to choose actually what you want to believe and what you think is most plausible. And I think that's important. So I try the same thing, kind of. So bear with me. Tiger with me. So he makes the explanation like, why, or the example, why is the water boiling? And on one hand, there is like the scientific explanation, the water molecules get heated up and they move faster and blah, 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 scientific explanation. The other explanation of why the water is boiling is because I'd like a cup of tea. And you get that very intuitively. There is like a explanation of laws and of nature, and there is also an agent explanation as a choice, an explanation of a choice. And they do not contradict, they do not conflict, they complement. And the idea is now, if you take this boiling water kettle and you blow it up to the size of the universe, you still need an explanation why it's there and why it's working, actually. You have like laws in nature, like gravity and strong and weak force, blah, blah, blah. But they do not, they're not creative at all. They were never creative, and they will never be creative at all. So, you still need the agent explanation from outside in order to get things going. And I think that's a very powerful, we call it theistic argument, for a personal creator of the universe. And I think it's a really plausible explanation. Since we know from just, normal thinking, like just logical thinking, call it philosophical thinking, it's just thinking to me, the universe isn't infinite, so it's finite. And we know that, I really like the simple thought, if the days into the past were infinite, today would just have never arrived. Because every time today would come, another day gets inserted in between, because the days into the past are infinite, or in your direction, it's this way, to make it correct. So this is very important to understand. And it takes a little time to get into this type of thinking, but every type of thing you do, if you try to come up with an actual infinite, it always ends up in paradoxes and in weird results, and nothing seems to work anymore. And and also it took natural science till the 1950s until they came to the same conclusion. It's what philosophers and theologians say for thousands of years before, that this universe is finite. And the Big Bang actually proves that, because before the Big Bang there was nothing, and by nothing it's really the absence of anything we can observe, and that's a very important point, because if you're there, if you're at this point, okay, everything exists now because of nothing, and I mean really the absence of anything, not something called nothing, what a lot of scientists tell these days. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think we're going to look at a statement of Stephen Hawking later on. It's absolutely ridiculous. Of nothing, or there is a mind behind everything, And since we also are humans and we have minds and we can create stuff, it's a very small step to also think that there is a mind beyond the universe that creates it, like mind and spirit is first and matter is derivative, like this kind of thinking, and not vice versa. It's just so much more plausible. And and if you're outside, if there was nothing before space-time matter, then you're outside of time. So God, what we call God, or the big mind, whatever you want to call it in this point, is outside of space, matter, and time. And if you're not in time, then you're infinite. And you're also personal, because you're choosing to create. That's the ancient explanation we discussed before. You could have all the potential energy in the world, on some point. You can say you can have all the potential energy in the world to move your arm, but if you're not willing to do it, nothing will ever happen. Those are just, it's just simple thinking. And I watched a lot of, scientists and, atheist scientists, and nobody has an explanation for that. The only thing they're always saying basically in the end is give us more time and we'll find out. But the problem is the answer is just not in nature, because before nature there was no nature, so you cannot do natural science to find the solution. I don't know, I still invite you to think with me, but this is the main problem basically. And yeah, let's look at Stephen Hawking. Really, nothing against him. He's a brilliant cosmologist and physicist, and try to read some of his work, and it's amazing. But it's really important to understand that those kind of people, I think he has a really powerful voice. Not his real voice, but his his appearance as a person of authority in a way. He died a couple of years ago, and this book is a couple of years old, but he didn't change his mind or anything like that. So it's still his thought process is like that. Scientists like that. Sometimes they say, we don't answer those big why questions because they kind of realize it's not in their field. But most of the time they want to, because it's a personal interest of them also, because everybody is interested in why am I here. I mean, those are the questions of a child, and science cannot answer them and will never be. And what I mean by science is natural sciences, because science by definition is just knowing stuff. Wissenschaft in German. It's like knowing stuff, but the natural sciences. So. And in this book, it's ridiculous. I mean, I think it's also in this book, he writes in the first chapters that philosophy is dead. And the whole first third of the book is about the philosophy of science. And, you know, it's just like they're trying to call philosophy that in order to appear like having more authority, but it's just pure ignorance, and it's basically embarrassing. But nothing against his work in physics, but I think he should stay there or should have stayed there. So, and this is the thing we're looking at here. This is the concluding sentence of the book, a conclusion, like in a central point of the book. And so, yeah, you know, he writes, you know, he explains in the chapters before more about gravity, but here is like, it doesn't matter. He writes, because there is a law like gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. Because there is a law like gravity, so because there is something, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. So because there is something, it will create itself from nothing. It's just a flat contradiction. You know, nonsense remains nonsense, even spoken by geniuses. This is really important to understand, because the whole problem we're facing here, it's not an intellectual problem, you know. It is the problem of the heart, you know. Because, you know, he is smarter than that sentence. He is way smarter than that. But he's willing to go that far, you know, because it has implications. If there is a God, there is a moral standard. If there is a God, there is ultimate purpose and meaning to life. And otherwise you have you have your own little meaning of life. And basically it's viewed from the outside. It's not really an objective meaning. It's really sad, actually. It's just how it is, you know. It's not what I say. It's just how it is. And the question is that a plausible explanation for reality always? Yeah, I think from my point of view and my life experience, and it's the problem is in the heart, and the problem is that a lot of people have a wrong or a distorted view of God. And they think of him, if you look at people like Christopher Hitchens, or I don't know if you're familiar with those kind of thinkers, it's a North Korean dictator in the sky. And it kind of breaks my heart because God, as a necessary metaphysical being, that unites everything we experience, because those are so different, those different explanations I just gave you, to experience them as a whole and as a one, there needs something to hold it together, and clearly everything cannot come from nothing, It's actually absurd to think that, life just evolved over how to say in English, randomly, by random chance, because if there is no mind behind it, you have no reason to think now that your thinking is reasonable and is therefore rational if the process was irrational. So it just negates itself completely, atheism. So the problem is in the heart. People have a distorted view of God, and I don't know, to make a complicated point rather short and keep it simple. If you're outside of time, you're infinite. So there is only a space for one mind, basically. That's just how it is. There is just space. There is just a space for one mind. So there is just one real God, the creator and sustainer of all things, of the bits we do know and the bits we don't know. It's not a God of the gaps type of God. Like, I don't know what that is. God, is it? No, it's the explanation of everything. So if there is this metaphysical necessary being, if it is there, it needs to be, or God needs to be, morally perfect. Because morality exists, and something needs to ground morality. You're ending up in this regress. What created that, and in the end you're coming to a being that lacks nothing and is perfect. And since morality and goodness exists, God has to be morally perfect. And the question now simply is, God created people, humans, with love, because God is also perfectly loving, and therefore created them with free will, because God doesn't want to create, robots with skin. That wouldn't be loving. So God creates people with free will that are moral beings, moral agents. Their actions have real consequences. They can make real choices. Therefore, we're made in the image of God. Actually, that's actually a pointer to it, because God can also will, and is spirit, and so are we. We can choose. If this necessary being exists, and it's all good, and people are here now and they're choosing evil, it's just because we have a choice. And God sees that and wants to cure it and just send, a solution, because God is loving. What would a being do that is absolutely loving and absolutely, I forgot the word right now, like selfless, but there is a better word of selfless. English is not my native language, so it's kind of hard. Writing lyrics in English is easy because you have time, and it's just a beautiful language. Just don't find it right. Like, God, Jesus preaches, to be selfless and to be, to love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. And what would a being that preaches that, do? If this being exists, it would come here, suffer with us, and take sin and all the punishment upon himself and overcome death. So it's a genius move. Your free will is still untouched, but you only now have to put your trust in Christ, in order to be saved, in order to be forgiven. And this is a thing that only Christianity offers, is forgiveness. It's not a merit system where you have to earn something, and it's just ridiculous. This is not loving at all. And if God exists, then this is the way to act loving. And I think this is a very powerful argument for Christianity and why it's true. And I think that's a very good argument. So it's actually a very beautiful thing. So if you put, God basically paid the price for your sins, because God cannot just blink at sin and say, oh no, it's not such a big of a deal. No, God is holy, and this is really a big thing to be sinful. And the very beautiful part, and I hope my words don't mess it up here, because it's really beautiful actually. If you're realizing that God, it flows from his character, that he is the standard of goodness and not you, You don't decide what's good or bad. Basically, there is a standard and God is it. And if you realize that, how good it is actually also for yourself, what it does, it makes you humble. It requires humility. And this is basically the start, of wisdom, because, then you also come into the place of the fear of God, where you just realize that you actually don't know why you take your next breath, it's just God's grace. You actually have no idea. We don't know what consciousness is. We don't know what energy is. We have no idea, basically. And if you come into that place where you realize that, and you realize that you sinned against the Holy God, you're actually taking yourself out of the center, and you are able to really become a good person, not just act like, some good person in order to get selfish stuff, It's really a transformation of yourself, and, nobody gets money of that, or nobody, it's just good for the sake of goodness, basically. What comes to my mind also, all the people that claim they did stuff in God's name and it's evil and it's killing people, they're just doing their own will, They never read the word of God, and they, never did stuff like that. So there we are. Basically, after the intro speech, then we took way off somewhere, I think, but it was kind of intended. So I would say let's go to the first verse, I'd say. So wrong, we chose what is grown and more. Don't get me wrong, I feel your mud. Hold my dismay. Find some land or just a semi-clone. Whiteling in one of these two rays. Waiting and do not move alone. Fear in my Yeah, I think gotta stop here. Just reminded me of recording and writing it. Cool. So the verse, don't get me wrong, I fear your mud, hope my dismay finds an end or just a sweet clone. Whiling in one of these two arrays, waiting and do not move alone. Pre-chorus, then, I fear it more than one or two mistakes. And the chorus, so where are you? Crawling straight up my inner truth. What is stable in mine is loose. And before I leak, I wash it all over you. Yeah, it takes the story right. Takes it a step further. Don't get me wrong, I fear your mud is like the mud is like referring to sin and what we do in our own righteousness, basically. And like realizing that it's wrong because we are moral beings and we have a moral compass. Like we're made in the image of God, so we have like a moral sense, like ontologically. Therefore, hope my dismay finds an end, or just as we clone whiling in one of these two arrays. Like I hope like there is a way out of sin, out of this evil. Whiling in one of these two arrays, to me it means like the answer is basically in the material realm, like it's somewhere here in nature, or it's in the spiritual realm, in the unseen, in the mental realm. That's what I'm about to explore. And I fear that stuff more than just one or two trivial mistakes, is what I want to say. Like I fear sin more because, it has some eternal flavor to it. You know what I mean? Like that there is no death thing, actually. What is also an opportunity, because if it's true, it's great. And I just made some points why I think it's true and why it reflects a reality very, very good. It's a very plausible explanation. So the chorus, so where are you? Crawling straight up my inner truth. What is stable in mine is loose. It's like, so where are you, Lord? That's what I really want to say here. Like, like in your everyday life, God is like, like crawling straight up your inner truth in a way. It's like, God reveals himself through a lot of things in this world, and tries to, get your attention and give you the chance to actually humble yourself and, and start a relationship basically with God, and this really, what is stable in mind is loose. It's kind of, because, we're just bent towards evil. It's just how it is. We have a fallen nature. It's also what the Bible writes, and it's what's the perfect reflection of reality. Since we're bent to it, and there is also this goodness of God, we need to make a choice, and that rattles kind of our pride. And this is like the picture, what is stable in mind is loose. I think it's really beautiful. And before I leak, I wash it all over you. It's like, before I lose my faith, like personally, I just tell you all of that, basically what I'm doing in a song, and right now it's kind of touched my heart. Yeah, that's basically it. So we're going to listen to the second verse, I think.
Wanna start in your road to swim alone, where these two sides interweave and finally erupt inside me, trying to say through the motions lies acts distinct. You know, I feel
Yes, that was the whole rest of the song. Just was thinking a little bit about what I could say about the bridge. I have some idea, but just came to my mind when I heard the first part of that really long bridge. The bridge part is actually as long as the whole song before. It's art, or it's just long. So like especially the part Wednesday. So why don't you love? Why don't you sing? Why do you waste it all away till I find another way? It's like, the evilness, the evil evil in this world just tries to take our joy away, like God's goodness and everything that's beautiful. But there is another way, and I show you, kind of. I wouldn't sit here for a second if I wouldn't believe that Christianity is testable. If Jesus claims that he rose from the dead, and the historical evidence is just overwhelming that it's true. If you go to the skeptical side, and just by trying to, God is a personal God. We discussed that in the beginning of the video. Why you need to be personal in order to choose to create, and create all those really personal, immaterial realities. God wants a relationship with you, and this is just basically it. And the bridge really is about you need to give up your distance between you and God. You can, I don't know if you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, if you're married, if you have kids, I don't know if you have a best friend, I hope so. I really hope so. You cannot know the person unless you give up your distance and you actually meet the person. You cannot, like from a distance say, oh, I think that's a good person. I don't know, or with my wife, we would never get married if sorry, not wearing my ring. I just realized, just hide it. It would have never come that far if if we on each side would not have put trust and in the other person and just make the step of commitment, basically. And you need to make the step of commitment in order to have a relationship with God, because God does not just force himself into your life, because God is way too loving for doing that. It just like from his character, it just can't. It's just like not, that doesn't flow from his character. You're a free being, and love by definition must be freely given. It's just the definition of love. You cannot force somebody to love you. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't work. So if you make a little step towards God and think, God, if you're real, show yourself to me, and I guarantee you, because I know it that it works. It sounds stupid, but it's not just a psychological trick, for you to get better through life. It's truth, and truth by definition isn't relative, because if truth were relative, then what I say right now would also be relative, and it can't be true. And the only thing truth is just true. And if you wonder about your existence and you just feel that there is purpose and value, then this is definitely a good way to go. So the bridge basically is about giving up your distance and letting God in, and it's just breaking all the evil in the world, and you becoming actually a human, how you're meant to be, actually, because the end then concludes. It's really interesting. all we share is that, you know, like everything that we, you know, think that all at the end is all we share is that. I just remember that I just improvised that part while recording. I just remember that. I never had an ending vocal and just came up with that, you know. All we share is that. So before I leak, I watch this all over you. It's like, you know, all, you know, the matter in this world, you know, the material stuff will finally die, you know, everything is losing energy, it's winding down, you know, the only eternal thing is your spirit. And before I leak, I watch it all over you. So, I'm glad that I didn't lose my faith. I was basically in a weird state of mind at this very time. You know, not completely away from faith, but I really tried to prove it wrong. You have to understand that. I really, in a way, tried to prove Christianity wrong, and I was just wrestling with my own pride. You know, and it's a really beautiful thing when you realize that you sinned against God and that God is merciful and wants to forgive you, but it's like you have to make the first step, and that God is all good and all loving. It's just, you know, do you want to be good? It's like the thing, you know, and there is just also, you know, to be, you know, you die at some day, perhaps, you know, sooner than you think. I don't know myself either, so I think those are really important questions. Those are more important questions than, I don't know what to have for lunch, or I don't know what to wear, or how you look in a picture, or I don't know what stuff. Those are just more important things. Yeah, again, that's basically a whole reason why I do all those things, because I think those are important topics. You know, it's really about, you know, the deep stuff of life, but we all experience that, and we have all, you know, longing for that stuff, and, you know, this world really turned into such a superficial thing in a way, and it's really funny that such a video will be on Instagram. No, Instagram has also good stuff, but I think you get my point. So I hope it really I hope you enjoyed the video. When you're still here, thank you so much. There is a lot of stuff coming soon. We're going to make a piano version. We're actually today evening rehearsing it. A piano version of Trust in the Horizon. It's going to be cool. We're filming that. And the next single is going to drop very soon. And an album comes also, and a lot of new songs. And if you like it and you want to support us, you know, we have Patreon, we have also a website with a shop where you can, for very little money, get our cool artwork. Like this, I just basically made a background. Here it is. The Trust artwork. It's like, you know, a little worm of a person looking up into the huge sky and into space and realizing, you know, it's like, you know, realizing, to me it feels like it's like a really humble picture, you know, of God is light and goodness, and it's a beautiful picture. So yeah, you can support us, because making music takes a lot of time and money. And if you want to support us, it would be really cool. That would just make us able to do more music and more videos. That's just it. It'd be really cool. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you like it. And yeah, just to say another thing quickly, you know, I always write in the Spirit. I always want to be guided by the Holy Spirit, and want that all words lead to all truth and understanding, even if I don't already have all the truth and understanding. And therefore, those lyrics kind of really blow my mind, because they seem like very ahead of me when I wrote them. Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing to me. It's pretty mind-blowing to me. So thank you so much, and be blessed, and see you soon. Bye.